The cat wants to be in the video, so
Okay.
she's
Hi,
coming up.
Caroline. So let me introduce you. So my name is Olia, and I've been doing these interviews for about I guess over a year now. I started out with with COVID. People not feeling really confident in their jobs and feeling like they didn't have a lot of security. I wanted to share stories of so far women. Everybody that I've interviewed has been a woman, and who has pivoted in some way. And I've met Caroline recently. She's originally from Germany, and she is very entrepreneurial. She's a mom, and right now she has a full-time job, and she is working with primarily with moms and coaching them in various areas. And I'll let you, Caroline, share more about that. We can talk more about it during our conversation. But welcome to the show. And if you're on live on Facebook, if you want to ask any questions, please do so in the comments, and then later on I will upload it to my YouTube channel. So welcome, Caroline.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. That's my first Facebook Live as well, so a lot of firsts.
Yes, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit more, or tell us a little bit more about, kind of fill us in on your, so your mom, you're, working full time, and you have this business that's growing. Anything else you want to share, like personally with
Yeah, I mean, you kind of summarized it really well. So I'm married, I live in Northern Virginia. I have a 4-year-old, almost 5. So we're getting ready for kindergarten, which is exciting. I'm in my corporate role. I'm a director at a consulting firm, and then I also have a coaching business. And as you described, I primarily work with mothers, especially working mothers that either have their own business or they're in the corporate world. And they often come either about time management issues, so they are really feeling out of balance and they just feel overwhelmed and stressed out. And I help them kind of reclaim a balance that works for them. So everybody has a different definition of that, and help them kind of, manage their day better so they can have more time for themselves and their families. And then I also work with women who are maybe stuck in their career, are trying to figure out what way to go, or have their own business and I try to grow that. Because as you said, you mentioned I have a background in entrepreneurship, so I led a startup before, and I also work in corporate innovation. So I have a lot of, business building background that I love to share with my clients.
Yes, that's fantastic. And I come across a lot of coaches, and as I'm sure you as well. And I just found that your background and your experience so fascinating, and so I mean, it's you really can you have that personal experience that you can share with people, so which is great. And you're a mom yourself, so
yeah. I mean, a lot of the reasons why I ended up deciding to primarily focus on mothers and also on the topics that I shared is because it's all things that I've experienced myself. I had a job that was very draining, where I felt like I was not having any type of work-life balance that I was seeking. And I had to figure out, what my next steps were. And I landed this really great opportunity now. And I've been able to really manage my day and my schedule in a way that allows me to have more time to do the things that I love. And I'm also building a business. So in a way, like all the things that I'm helping my clients with, I either experience right now or have experienced in the past.
Right. And that's a great, position to be in, because you can directly relate to the people that you're working with, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So, so one of my goals is to really help people who are looking for different ways to create, multiple streams of income, start their own business, freelance, start a consulting, practice, or a network marketing business. Can you share a little bit about like kind of your journey, how you actually got started, and what helped you sort of make that, transition? I know that you haven't, I mean, that you have both things going on at the same time right now. But what was sort of that impetus? And you kind of shared that a little bit, already, but kind of take us through that journey of kind of that whole, just a little bit more detail.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, looking back, like the journey to become a coach started actually quite a while ago. So early on in my career, I was in a very different industry. I was in the hotel industry. I had a fairly like high position early on and led some very large teams. And I always enjoyed like the coaching and mentoring aspect. And then I was able to kind of pick that back up the last few years in the role that I actually didn't enjoy, but I had the ability to do some like internal coaching and mentoring. And I also became a mentor for a couple girls organizations, and I really loved that. And so when I was kind of struggling with my, in a way, like with my identity during the pandemic, and I really was unhappy in my job, and I was like seeking to figure out like what actually fulfills you, what are things you love. I had a conversation with a friend who was going through some challenging times, and she later told me that our conversations really helped her get out of that. And it was such an amazing feeling to know that just by talking to her, I could really help her actually get out of that situation. And I realized like, oh, I love doing this. And that's why I enjoy the mentoring so much, because it really allows me to help people in a very direct way. And luckily, I was able to talk to a coworker who was already a certified coach, and we talked a little bit more. And the more we talked, the more I learned about her experience, the more I realized, I want to pursue this. And I just kind of, went out and did it. And I mean, I think I have this innovative background. So for me, trying out things is very natural. I try it out. If it doesn't work well, then at least I know. But I always try to give things a chance. So I ended up, signing up for coach training, completed that, and then started my business. And I still kind of operate this way today. Like I try out different things. Some work, some don't. And that's just part of building a company, building a business, and part of finding what works for you.
Yeah, and that's great, because I think a lot of people sort of suffer from paralysis, but analysis paralysis, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like until, especially I think women, because I think we don't have as much confidence in sort of just like with if we were not completely qualified for a job, we're not going to apply. Yet men, right, according to research, if they I don't know what the percentage is, maybe if they're qualified, like 80% qualified or even less.
I think it's less. I think it's like 50%. If they match 50% of the requirements, they're going to apply. And
sure. they'll just do it. And so I think it's a great trait to develop in yourself, is just to go ahead and try things. And like Sarah Blakely talks about it, like how her dad would ask them like every week, like what have you failed? Like how did you fail this week? And if they didn't have anything to share, he was disappointed. So I think it's just the same spirit. Yeah,
I think for a lot of women, the imposter syndrome is like a big issue here. And for me, I experience it sometimes too, but like thankfully now I have the tools to kind of work through that. But what also helped me actually is that while I was like kind of going through this, two friends of mine, also women and moms, kind of pivoted and started their own businesses. And the one I actually was able to coach a little bit in the beginning, and the other one I was just able to kind of watch, and just seeing them do it was also very inspirational for me, where I felt like, I can do it too. And I think that it can be sometimes intimidating when you see others, because you feel like you're behind, but I think you can also use it as an inspiration, so exactly. That definitely was inspirational for me.
Yes. And also comparing yourself to others can also be a challenge.
For sure. I mean, I think that's where the imposter syndrome comes from. You are constantly comparing yourself to others, your journey to their journey, and that that can be detrimental. But again, there's ways to kind of combat that, and if you have somebody that can help you with it, I definitely recommend that.
Right. So actually, I wanted to kind of dig a little bit deeper into your practice, and if you have one or two actual examples of, of course, you don't have to use names or companies or anything like that, but just please share a couple of like, if say you've had a couple of clients who came to you, and what did you do, like how long did you work with them, and what was the result, just so people can relate.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was one that I kind of always sticks out to me, because we actually only coached like one session, but the person was struggling with work-life balance. And basically her work was taken over so much that she ended up working a lot of evenings, and that she didn't want to do, but she felt she had to. And so in the session, in the coaching session, part of it was that I actually shared some very specific tools you can use, but we did a lot of uncovering, like, why were certain things happening, how did you feel about it? And when I checked in a few weeks later, she shared with me that she had not worked an evening since that coaching session, and she had previously worked like almost every weeknight in the evening for a couple hours. So basically gone from, basically cut like, I don't know, about 8 hours out of her schedule, at least I would say, within one coaching session. And which is like really amazing. I had a similar client who I donated a pro bono session to, like a raffle, and she had like an extended power session, and it was very similar. She was struggling with some things in her role, and she wasn't sure what she wanted to do. There was also time management issues, but also she had to make some decisions, and she was very unclear about what to do. And at the end of the session, she knew exactly her path forward. She knew what she was going to say to her boss, how she was going to approach the problem. And she basically said, like, I'm going to put up my boundaries and communicate them clearly. And if they're not met, then I'll have to pack my bags and leave. And she was, went from like a complete, like, overwhelmed and not knowing what to do. She went to this clarity. And then a last example that I had actually very similar results with a couple clients is that had their own businesses that weren't quite performing to the level they wanted it to. And there was a lot of a kind of internal struggles that they were facing, and I helped them become more confident. And as a result, they were able to raise their prices and be more, a little bit more firm with some of their clients, and they were able to actually increase their revenue, not by enrolling more clients, but just, raising their prices to an adequate level, because they were completely underselling themselves and not, and over delivering on value, but not charging the client the appropriate amounts for what they were doing.
Yeah, and that's another challenge, actually, I feel like a lot of women face is charging, not really undervaluing, like you mentioned, undervaluing ourselves and our contribution, right?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, so with both these clients I worked for, like, I actually still work with one of them, but we worked, for a longer period of time. But the one client said to me, she said, I kind of knew, like, deep down that I was probably not charging enough. But she said, like when we talked about it, the more like it became like basically having it black or white, she realized, like, oh my God, what have I been doing? Like, how can I operate this way? And this is not right, So I think sometimes having a coach that can help you talk these things through really gives you the clarity that you need.
That's true. Very, very true. So what is one thing that you're most excited about in your business right now?
So one of the clients I work with is a pretty big, she has a pretty big YouTube following. She's like somewhat of like a mom influencer. So her and I were discussing to do some promotions together. So I'm quite excited about that, because she has a pretty large audience, and it's the audience that I work with. Mm-hmm. I mean, the other thing is that I've been able, by applying my own skills, my own coach skills to myself, to really free up my calendar more. And I've been more active in like local networking, and that has been just a really great experience, seeing so many women out there who are building businesses, and it's very inspirational. So I think those are the two things that I'm like most excited about right now.
That's fantastic. I like to keep these conversations short, And so I'm gonna just ask you a few kind of, just kind of bullet like questions
Yeah.
that will hopefully help the audience, that is kind of focused on, like I said, starting their own business or adding on, something else to their plate that would help them, accomplish that. So, what is the best advice that you've ever received?
So I would say that's actually from my mom, and it wasn't like one thing she said, but just kind of watching her and some of the comments she made over the years. So I've rarely or never met anybody that probably loves their job as much as she does. She's a physical therapist. She is 76 and still works by choice because she loves it so much. And the one thing she did tell me is that she said, I love my job, but I don't love all of it. And I think sometimes we are setting this expectation that, if you don't love, if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. But no matter what you do, there's going to be things that you don't love. And what you have to do is figure out what job or what company can I build where I do these things the least possible time. But I think it is so important to realize there's always going to be aspects of, say, like in my coaching, like I have to track the expenses. I don't love it, but it's part of it, and it's okay. So I think, keeping that in mind, because otherwise you are setting yourself up for complete, disappointment, because you expect that even with your dream job, it's not going to feel like work, and it will still feel like work, sometimes.
At times, right? At times,
yeah,
and eventually, I mean, I think depending also on where you are in the business, you can also outsource some of those things, right?
Exactly. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to really understand what am I good at and what do I love to do and what are the things that I don't like to do and I'm not good at, and try to, again, like minimize them either by hiring some people or being able, like, being very, very strategic when you're choosing how to build your business.
Right. Great. That's great advice for sure. So, what is a personal habit of yours that you believe contributes to your success?
I think it's dedicating a lot of time to planning. So one thing I've always kind of done, I've always been a planner, but I kind of took it up a notch in recent years. One method that I actually learned from a business coach that I worked with previously, Caroline Bussenius, is like to do like a weekly prep session. So I do it Friday afternoon, and I actually do it for my corporate job and then for my coaching and then for my personal life, but I kind of plan the week ahead. So I look at what are the priorities, what needs to get done, and I schedule time blocks. Like for my corporate work, if I know I have to work on a big project that is priority, I'm going to schedule time in my calendar. I make sure that everything that is important is going to be scheduled. And then, I keep a running to-do list of things, but those are like not as important. So if I get to them, I'll do them, but I know that my focus needs to be on my priorities. And, at the same, like, it's a somewhat longer process because I clean up my email inbox. I kind of clean up everything on my computer. For my coaching business, I take care of expenses, but it makes sure that I stay on track with everything, and that when I start my week on Monday, I already know what I'm going to do. I'm not all of a sudden like, oh, what am I supposed to work on? Everything is very clear. It's organized. My time is well managed, and it just takes a big burden mentally of me as well, because I don't have to remember things. Like everything is on paper or on, in my calendar virtually, and it frees up a lot of brain space.
I agree. Yeah, I know that, like, when I started my business, a big part of it is personal development and skills, like really kind of developing those productivity skills and planning ahead, like a week ahead. I mean, some people do it like you on Friday, afternoon, and some people do it Sunday night. It's whatever. Some people do it Monday morning maybe, but it's as long as you know kind of what your week looks like, and you can really have everything on the calendar, right? You really know kind of where your time is going.
And I think the other thing that it allows me to do is, one of my goals, personal goals for this year, was that I wanted to do something with a friend. Like every week, I wanted to have time to touch base with a friend, or have coffee, have dinner. So now that is part of my planning session, that I always plan something. And sometimes I realize in the past, I mean, of course with COVID it's very different too, but like I would go like a month without like meeting up with a friend on my own. And that has, this planning session allows me to schedule the time for the things that matter to me, that are important to me. And I have my personal goals, and I schedule in my workouts, I schedule in, if we have a date night, and all these things are priority. So then, I can kind of, I start with what's, my work hours of course set, then some of my coaching hours are set, but then I fill in with other priorities I have. Right. And it helps me actually dedicate that time. Whereas before, where I still did some planning, but not to the extent, a lot of times the personal goals were like, the last one to think about.
Yeah. And, and if you think about, I think a lot of people have realized in the past couple of years, and I was just talking with a client yesterday that they're planning on retiring because, her mom lives in Costa Rica, and, she's, has some health issues, and they're planning on going to visit more. And, family really, I mean, the reason that we live, right, is not to pay our bills or to it's really our family is the priorities. And I love that you actually, when you're planning you have your planning session, that family is a part of that, and your health is a part of it. Having those big rocks, like putting that, having that container, and having that container, putting the big priorities in first, and then everything else will fit in. But if you try to do all those little things, then those big priorities won't, right?
No, so, definitely. I mean, I think a big piece is also, it's like, what do you prioritize? Like, yeah, there are other things I could be doing, but first you have to get clarity on what is important to you. And if you have a job and you have a side gig, which more and more people and women do, and you want to spend time with your family, then maybe some other things have to fall off, And I think, for me, that's like, some of the things I did before, I'm like, what, like, yes, they were fun, but then maybe not priority. So you can, you got to decide that first. But then using this method where you plan ahead and you schedule these time blocks for the things that you love to do will really actually help you do them. Because otherwise, if you don't schedule them, they're not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, my workouts are on my calendar as well, and all my personal stuff. Like everything is together on the same calendar. I love it. So speaking about productivity and planning, what are a couple of tools that have been helping you lately with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I mean, I touched upon them. I mean, the weekly planning is a big one. The time blocking, blocking time for certain things is a really big one. Another thing that I do a lot more than I used to do is also outsourcing. I mean, that's, even in my personal life, I was always a little bit more on the cost conscious, side, but I realized, I want to spend more time with my family. So having my groceries delivered, or having, hiring somebody to organize a closet instead of doing it myself. Like, I just realized that is so worth it. And not everybody's in the financial position, but I think, you got to kind of figure out like what's important for you, and maybe you love cooking every night. I love cooking, but I realized the weeknight cooking has really gotten to me. So I've been taking advantage of some of those meal kit deliveries, and maybe even eating out more. But it allows me to be more present for my daughter, and that's what is important to me. In terms of some other tools and trips, I mean, the one thing that I'm like really big on habits and building habits that help you, manage your time better. And so I think part of it is just having really good routines. Like, for example, I have a routine when I start my workday, my corporate workday. I have a routine when I shut that down. And a lot of these things help me do things faster without losing, quality. And they allow me just to manage my time better.
Right. Yes, that's fantastic. And as far as personal development, what is there a book or two that you I know you've mentioned that you're reading one right now, or rereading one right now.
Yeah.
What would you recommend?
So, I mean, like I just said, like I'm really big into habits, and I am rereading The Power of Habit from Charles Duhigg that I've probably read at this point, I think the third time, but I just love rereading it, and it's so fascinating. The background, but also how habits can impact you. He's talking about, star athletes and how their habits impact their performance, and there's so much of it that's translatable to, to everybody. And just re-listening to it has really inspired me yet again to make it a priority to work on good routines and habits.
Yes, I agree. I actually I don't know if I've already listened to it, but I'm more of an Audible book reader right now versus sitting.
I listen to it right now on Libby, the free library app. I mean, I do some of I listen to a lot of these type of books. I also listen to a lot of books around raising children, and sometimes I do like to go back to the actual book to reread sections, but I listen to them as an audiobook, which is another great way to I don't normally recommend multitasking, but it's a great way to read more books because you can do it while you are doing some monotone tasks or while you're driving.
Yeah, I listen when I'm driving. I listen when I'm walking. And I do sometimes I listen to meditation. I try to do my meditation while I'm walking. So it's kind of combines the two. And plus I'm an auditory and kinesthetic learner. So I actually learn much better this way than sitting down. And it's hard for me to sit down for long periods of time, actually.
I completely agree. I mean, I think that's, again, it's you try to figure out what's priority. If reading some of these books a priority and you try to fit in your schedule, think about creative ways that you can do it. I mean, a lot of us, especially when you work lunch, you are at your computer or you are glued to your phone. Well, maybe instead of reading Facebook or scrolling Facebook, and I know we're on a Facebook Live, but still, instead of doing that, maybe just read your book on your phone. I mean, there's so many ways that you can prioritize these type of things without costing you time in your day.
Exactly. So please share one parting piece of advice to someone who is still sort of in that position where they are considering kind of taking that leap of faith and jumping into and starting their starting whatever gig, side gig that they're planning on starting. And then also please share your some ways that people can get a hold of you if they'd like to have a session with you.
Yeah. Well, I think my biggest advice is to find a community, either work with a coach or find a community of peers, because that has been so powerful for me. I mean, I mentioned early on that there were a couple of my friends who were building their businesses while I got started, which was really inspirational. But I also have a community of other coaches and other entrepreneurs that I'm a part of, and it's this power. This community is so helpful because I think it really, first of all, gives you this push of inspiration. You can discuss challenges you're having. You can get feedback from people that want to see you succeed. And you're around people that have the same mindset, because I think sometimes it can be challenging to maybe get your family on board. They might not completely believe in what you're doing. So if you are in this, group with other entrepreneurs, I mean, everybody's going to cheer you on and everybody's going to want to support you. So I think, having that and a coach on your side is what's going to really help you with all the challenges that you might face.
Yes, I'm 100% in agreement about community. I mean, if it wasn't for a supportive community when I started my businesses, I probably would have just been discouraged very quickly. So you have to have those like-minded people, and a lot of people are going to, when you are starting something, people don't like change, and so if you no longer fit into that sort of mold that we have for you, then you are going to hear that, some criticism and some, comments about, why are you doing this? And you want to make sure to have that other community that is going to support you and build you up.
Yeah, I mean, I have my, my moments where I'm a little bit well, what's the right word that I'm looking for here? Like where I'm feeling like a little demotivated, or I'm maybe not where I wanted to be, and I get a little upset about that. And every time I talk to my own coach, like she's like my biggest cheerleader, and I leave the coaching session, and I'm just like so re-energized, and I'm like, you know what, all the things that I had in my head, like we talked through it, I'm realizing it's just in my head, and I just am like ready to take on the world afterwards. And I don't know if I would still, if I would be here where I was without her, or, my husband is extremely supportive, but if you don't have a community, it is very hard. So if you don't have it within your current circle, I just would highly encourage you, go out there, go to networking events, try to meet people, and you will be amazed what a difference it makes to have, a support system.
Yes, yes. And, or you can find, like, in my situation, I have a group of colleagues that we kind of meet on a weekly basis on Zoom, and we just check in with each other and
yeah,
each other.
I just yeah.
And
I have a coach, and I have something very similar with other coaches that went to the certification training with me. Like, we don't do it on a weekly basis, but we touch base on a bi-weekly basis. And it is, it's great just to catch up with people who are on the same path as you are.
Right, right. And we always come away with a completely different energy, and, just completely re-energized and ready to take on the world again,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And share some of your contact information, your social channels. I'm gonna also post it in the comments and things like that, so that people can reach out to you if they'd like to learn more about you.
Yeah, so I am on Instagram, and my name is a little bit difficult, so it's going to be good when you put it in writing, but I'm on Instagram as Caroline_Bussenius, Bussenius, and you can, reach out to me on Instagram, and I also have a website that is just CarolineBussenius.com that you can visit and send me a note. And, I love to offer anybody who's interested in a discovery session, so feel free to schedule that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was actually going to say, like, do you have any special offers for people who are watching this?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm offering a free discovery session to everybody, and if people message me about scheduling coaching and end up signing up for one of my packages and put in the message, oh yeah, you'll get a 10% discount off your package. So
fantastic.
I can share that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's very, very generous of you. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna close this off. Thank you guys for showing up, and for hopefully you took a lot out of this conversation. I certainly did. And if you want to get more of this content, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll put it in the comments as well. And have a fantastic day. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.